so pretty much what led me to this, you commented on one of my videos. It was called, I'm pretty sure it was the one that said, "I hate shred guitar players." And you left
Right.
me a nice playful comment that said, "Noodling is, so fun," basically.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to know your thoughts, just, I don't even, it's probably been a while since you watched the video, but just everything I kind of laid out from point A to point B with like so many shredders just being copycats for the sake of shredding versus ones that are actually quite musical and maybe even use counterpoint and stuff like that. What are your thoughts? Hey, real quick, before I jump into this video, if you're interested in private guitar instruction with yours truly online, my email is in the link in the description below. Just shoot me an email, state your case, and I will get back to you. The lesson slots do tend to fill up pretty quickly. If that happens, I also do have a waiting list, so I look forward to hearing from you. Also, don't forget to sign up for my free monthly newsletter, free written guitar lesson every month, as well as access to all of my tabs. Link in the description and pinned comment as well.
Well, you made some really good points in that video. And certainly somebody who's learning to play guitar, they can watch some shred videos and it blows their mind initially, and that gets them excited. And so they start practicing those like 3-note per string runs and so forth. And they can, if they focus enough on that, they can get good at that and completely miss all this other stuff. Obviously, music theory and harmony and, what are intervals and why do some sound better than others and things like that. You can completely miss that stuff by only focusing on mechanical techniques, right? And certainly that does happen. And I think I've been guilty of that, like especially earlier on, hopefully not so much now, but maybe even still now to a certain point. But at the same time, you got to wonder, like, well, why do so many people do that? Like, why do so many guitar players do that? And there's this old desire to be contrarian that I think a lot of musicians have, especially the educated musicians. It's like, oh no, I don't want to do that. Everybody's done that, right? There's this desire to do something different. And so they go out of their way to not do what other people have done. And then usually what happens is 5 years later, they're like, oh, now I understand why everybody did that. Now I understand why everybody uses the pentatonic scale, right? When people initially like, no, that's been done. I'm not going to use that. So I think it's like, it's easy to look at shredding and be like, oh, it's just, it's just noise, man. Where's the emotion, right? Where's the feeling? Where's the musicality? But at the same time, there is something about it that draws people in, and it does it again and again and again, and it does it across the generations. We're still admiring 80s shredders today, and like the 80s, that wasn't 20 years ago. That was like almost 50 years ago, right? I mean, it was like a very long time ago, right?
I don't even say that.
Oh yeah, no, we're probably like, we think about it the same way. You think, oh, 1980 was like 20 years ago, right? It's like, no. Yeah. There's something about that sort of high performance playing in terms of the mechanics and the physicality of it that's always going to get attention, and it's always going to draw people in. And I think that alone gives it some legitimacy. But at the same time, you want to be a well-balanced musician, right? You want to be, you want to be able to do that and do the more musical side of it.
Yeah, well, here's maybe a contrarian thought for you, because I think all of us are guilty of what you've mentioned, where like when you first learn how to shred, you don't really care about what the notes sound like. In fact, I think Michelangelo kind of teaches this in a lot of his clinics and stuff. Like he'll pretty much just give everyone symmetrical scales and just be like, hey, do this on like the 12th fret where your hands fit really well, and just play this really fast. And once you get speed, like, you're on the right track. But then, I think in all of our playing, we realize the caveat of like, then you try to play that over a chord progression is like, all these notes sound wrong, and then you have to readjust like, oh, wait, I actually have to do this in a scale. And then some of the strings have 3 notes, and then some have 2 notes, and some have 4 notes. Like, how do I do this? This is insane. So I think but I think what I was gonna say is, like, when you're starting younger, and then maybe, like, I don't know, this happened to me a couple times. Like, I go to Guitar Center as a, I don't know, 11-year-old, and I sit down next to some guy, and he's just shredding like so hardcore. And as much as I wanted to try to be like, oh, that's nonsense or whatever, secretly deep down I knew that this guy was way better than me and I couldn't do that. So I feel like there's some competitive nature specifically to like shred guitar, which I've even kind of like received comments on the channel like, oh, I don't know what it is about all of us just being so competitive in this thing, but it kind of feels like pro sports. Do you feel the same way?
Absolutely. I think you're totally right on that. I mean, we talk about this all the time where if you play at the NAMM show, right? If you play at the NAMM convention, if you play there, you perform there, that is the absolute worst audience to play for,
Yeah.
right? Because everybody is like, oh, I could do that better than that guy, and it's extremely uncomfortable to perform in that kind of a situation because, yeah, there is that, I don't want to say jealousy, but like there is that sort of competitiveness, and sometimes it is jealousy, right? I mean, yeah, but I
I
totally
think there's
agree.
plenty of times where all of us have just seen somebody else play, and you're just like secretly, like, oh man, like I got some, like, it's funny you say that because I saw Jason Richardson perform at NAMM, like, I want to say in 2017. Nicest guy, because I got to kind of, one of my friends was friends with him, so I got to hang with him afterwards, and I was like, man, this dude just like literally like out shredded every single person at this entire event, and he just like doesn't have any ego, but like he's low key thinking, yes, I did that. So in terms of like shred guitar, guitar's been kind of a dying art form, it feels like, especially in the last 10 years or so. Where do you feel like it's heading right now?
Well, I wouldn't say guitar is a dying art form, but certainly it goes through, peaks and valleys, and we're in a valley right now. It's not popular right now compared to, 10 or 15 years ago. But I'm confident that as history has shown us, it'll regain, what it's lost in terms of popularity. Like, you know, like through the mid to late 90s and even in the early 2000s, it was basically illegal to play guitar solo on the radio. And no, I wasn't until like, what was it, Kryptonite, Three Doors Down or something like that, that was one of the first songs to come out of that era where you started to hear like somebody actually like, not I won't even say shredding, but just like a solo.
Yeah.
And then Avenged Sevenfold was like a little bit after that, and then they started to get really popular, and that was the beginning of a whole like new wave of shredding, right? But yeah, we're just, we came out of that. Like, I think Gent kind of killed it a little bit, and we came out of that, and now we're kind of at the bottom in terms of the popularity, I think.
Yeah.
So we got to ride it out, man. We got to ride it out for a few years, and it'll come back. But the other thing that this brings up is, with all the AI tools that are being used right now, and I don't know what the future of recorded music is going to be like in general. I think we're entering a time where, like, this is like post recorded music industry. So before you could make records or like a wax cylinder or something, like before you could record music, musicians, they wrote music and they performed it, and you could teach it, and that was it. So through the whole 20th century, we had the recorded music industry. It went into this century a little bit, and now that's pretty much died out. And I think where the opportunities are going to be in the future for musicians is going to be in live performance. And still, they probably still want to write their own stuff that they're going to play live performance, writing and teaching. That's where it's going to be. But the idea of somebody like, oh man, I'm gonna get the guys together and we're gonna play a show and there's gonna be a record label exec in the audience and he's gonna sign us, man, and we're gonna sell 1 million copies. Like, as
No.
much as I love that idea, it's gone. That's in the past, and I don't think it's coming back.
Yeah. How much performing are you doing these days, if any?
So live performing, it's very rare. The only stuff I do now is like guest appearances or something like that, where I'll join a band for like 1 or 2 songs or yeah, something like that. Like I haven't been in a proper band since 2019, like pre-COVID, basically.
I get that. You're out in LA, right?
Yeah,
What part? Are you like in the Valley? Or are you in Hollywood?
I'm in the Valley.
Okay. I used to
If
live
you've
out
ever
there.
been to Norm's Rare Guitars, like I live really close to that.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah, I used to live in LA for like 3 years, so I'm very familiar with all of that. How do you feel like, because this has kind of been a debatable subject too, on I've had like 50% of my friends tell me don't come back to LA, it's dying. And then the other 50% are like, oh, LA is still the kingpin music place to be. What do you think?
Well, my advice would be wait and see. I
Okay.
think it's not good right now, but there's a lot of changes going on. So I think maybe in a year or two, it might be picking up. Um,
Why is it not good? Is it like the fires and stuff, or?
yeah, well, yeah, there's all the usual Southern California problems like wildfires and crime, right? But and some of that has gotten better, some of it's gotten worse. It's as expensive as it's ever been. Like that has not gotten any better. That's probably gotten worse. And honestly, there's a lot of just stressed out people. But
Yeah.
yeah, so it's and the other part of it is if you're a guitar player in LA, well, we're just talking about this right now. It's like, well, guitar playing is not that popular right now. So
So let me ask you this: you have like more guitars than I think any person on earth. How often do you play all of those behind you?
uh, I mean, there's a few of them that I never play, right? I mean, like the stuff that's right behind me, I counted like the other day, and I think 9 of these guitars behind me are like signature guitar prototypes and things like that. So they're guitars that are kind of important to me, but like I've got a prototype and I've got the production model like right next to it. So,
That's pretty
it's
cool.
if I play one or the other, it's not a super big deal.
What's
Um,
like your
and
favorite
then,
one?
oh man, I gotta say, like, I think you can see it right over my shoulder there, like that purple one.
Is that
That
purple?
it's like a purple burst, yeah, like right there.
Yeah, I can
And
kind of
that
see.
is like one of the new colors from my Harley Benton signature, and I think that's probably my favorite one. I mean, they play pretty much the same regardless of the color, but there's something about that one that, I mean, I love the '80s stuff, so it's just like purple, bam,
I know, no, I feel you on the colors. Like I'll just buy for the color sometimes. In terms of like signature guitars and like I don't know how much you're allowed to tell us, but what actually goes into that? Because I have been skeptical myself. Maybe you're not allowed to say, but so like I see a signature guitar and it's like really expensive. Like I just bought the Yngwie Malmsteen Strat. It's a '06 Sonic Blue. Bought it for like
Nice.
$2,500. Very happy with the purchase. But then I also
Yeah.
wonder like how much of this guitar is actually true to Yngwie? And like
Mm.
does he actually have mods on his guitar that other people don't have at all? And does that happen for you when you're doing this?
So it doesn't happen for me. And I think in the case of Ingve, I think that basically doesn't happen. Like, unless he's like wants to experiment with some new idea, something like that. But I don't think he has mods to his personal guitars that are not on the stock guitars. And I think the reason for that is Ingve is out there touring. And if something weird happens and he needs to get a replacement guitar like today, like right now, he can walk into a Guitar Center or whatever and get one off the shelf, and it's going to be his guitar. So I think for guys like that, and also it's like, it's an expensive guitar, so it's like, what
Yeah.
more would you do to it, right? So I think for guys like that, I don't think you run into that. That being said, there are definitely some signature guitar situations where it's just slapping somebody's name on it. And then there are, you have these situations where there's the Gibson version and then there's the Epiphone version.
Yeah.
And those would be different and stuff like that.
Well, like
But
for your guitar, like for example, because obviously Harley Benton is an import brand for the most part. So like, is your guitar any more special because like yours is specific to you when they send it to you, or is it like literally that's the one like everyone else gets?
no, it's exactly the same. It's
Okay.
exactly the same. Yeah, there's nothing different about it. I do have a couple of prototype versions that are different, but that was just stuff where we were trying something out and they did it in a prototype. They made one and then it didn't work out for various reasons, right? And so we're like, okay, we got to do something else. And so they do another prototype, and then that one ends up being, closer to the final production version.
Yeah, because I actually met a tech for Eddie Van Halen like way back. I can't even remember where this was, but I think it was when I was out in Nashville. And basically, there was a situation that happened that not with his guitars, but with his amps. That basically, it turned out that his EVH amps were actually like modded to him, regardless of what was being sold on the market. And then I guess that word got out, and he's like, "Yo, what are you doing? Like telling people about this? You can't mention these things, basically." So that's kind of where that question arises, because I'm like, oh, I wonder how many other artists have these mods that the general public doesn't know.
Yeah, it probably does happen more with amps than guitars, because like amps are complicated. They're very complicated. So it's like, to do exactly the amp that the artist wants probably takes a lot more work than
Yeah.
to make a more generic amp, right? Yeah, but like I mean, as far as the Harley Benton signature, like I can tell you that process was very long to put that guitar together, or to create it and then get it out to the public.
Yeah. What goes
I
into that?
Well, so it was kind of funny because I originally, like, I had done some Harley Benton videos, right? Just with like off the shelf guitars, and I was reviewing them, and they saw me reviewing them. And so we kind of got a back and forth conversation going just through email, right? And I approached them. I thought, well, I'm kind of getting to be known as like the affordable guitars guy, and Harley Benton makes these great affordable guitars, and like this would be just like a great, like an obvious collaboration. So I approached them, and they said no. They were not interested. They're like, nah, we just want to do other things. And then almost exactly a year later, I got a random phone call, like from Germany, and this guy, who's like an artist rep guy. He's like, "Hey, you said this thing about a year ago. Are you still interested in doing that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, hell yeah," And so I think my channel had probably grown quite a bit in that time, or maybe I continued to do more stuff with just the regular models, and so maybe that was like, oh, this, we should take this guy seriously, I guess. So yeah, so from there we started like working on like, okay, what kind of guitar is it? What features, specs is it going to have? And it was something where I wanted it to be affordable. Like I didn't want to make a $1,500 Harley Benton guitar. That seemed like really defeats the purpose, right? So
Mhm.
I want it to be affordable. I want it to be something that is very consistent. Like I want each guitar to be as good as the previous one. And if a customer goes in and buys it, or another person goes in and buys it a year later, they really get like the same guitar. So I wanted it to be very consistent. in terms of the build quality, and then I wanted, you know, obviously things that I really liked. So it's got to have, you know, the Floyd Rose and the 24 frets, and you know, there was a thing about the frets, like what size they were going to be, and the reverse headstock. Like at the time, they'd never done a reverse headstock guitar before, and
Yeah, that's awesome.
so worked out all these details, and then basically that was in the beginning of 2020. Okay, that's how long ago this was. And then COVID happened, right? And so we kept working on this, but it would take 6 months to get a new prototype built. And this was because of, you know, work restrictions and stuff with COVID, like everything was super slow.
Yeah.
So it took 6 months between each prototype. And it basically took like 4 prototypes to get to the production model. So it took 2 years to where it wasn't even 2 years to where it's like, okay, we're launching it. It was 2 years until it was ready to like, okay, we have the guitar, we can like do the production run now. And so there's like another 6 months after that. So it took a frustratingly long time to release it, but then it, you know, it finally got released, and it's been a really big success. And then a year after that, a year after the initial one, they're like, hey, let's do some more colors, this kind of thing. And it's going from there. And the second, you know, the new colors have been successful too. So I'm hopeful that it's basically going to be a permanent Harley Benton model, you know, going, you know, from here on out or something. You know, it's not, you know, if it sold really badly, then it'd be like, oh, limited edition, right?
Dude, I've literally never seen it in stock.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's done very well, you know, with that being said, because every time I've seen you promote it, I'm like, oh, well, can't get one, you know?
Yeah.
Is that like your, I mean, is that basically your ideal guitar? Like everything in that just on a budget pretty much, or?
Yeah, it really is. You know, the thing, it's ideal for me. The only complaint I get from people consistently is that it doesn't have the fretboard markers. You know, it doesn't have the fretboard inlays.
Oh.
It's got the side dots. You know, it's got the dots on top, right, on the side, which for the person playing the guitar, I think that's really all you need.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's aesthetic.
Yeah, but some people have said like, well, if you're teaching somebody, if you're gonna do a video with it where you're explaining how to play something, and then there's no markers on the frets, that kind of makes it difficult. But I mean, I think it's
they put like they put a real Floyd Rose on that, right? It's not a import. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
How'd you guys do that?
No, it technically is an import. I don't want to mix up. I mean, up until this year, all Floyd Rose bridges were imported to the U.S. But
wasn't it like made in Germany?
It's a good quality. It's a good quality Floyd Rose for sure. Yeah. But you've got like the generic labeled ones, and then the special, and then the 1000, and then the OFR, the original Floyd Rose, which used to be made in Germany for a very long time, and they just this year started making them in the U.S.